Rugby World Rankings, folks, for the 13th of March 2022. A few teams on the move in a couple of directions, and certainly an extended lead for those two teams at the top. We'll go through the rankings. You guys can let us know your thoughts. The possible permutations with one round to go in the Six Nations, plus the European Rugby International Championship, which is your Georgia, your Romania, Portugal, Spain, all those guys still in action as well. And yeah, we'll see how we go. Ireland, number one side in the world, and certainly still looking like the number one side in the world as they hunt down a Grand Slam with their big win in Scotland. I say big, like it wasn't a hiding in terms of points, but goodness gracious me. Injuries, and they still managed to get a pretty comfortable win at Murrayfield, up from 91.33 to 91.82. So they have pushed on. Is this as high as Ireland has ever been? Has to be, surely. Bloody hell, they're a good-looking side. And then France, they are also into the 90s with their big old win at Twickenham, up from 89.47, 90.47 now. Yeah, I think pretty clearly looking like the number one and two sides in the world. Followed not too far behind by neck and neck New Zealand and South Africa, who obviously aren't moving because they're not in action for a few more months. Very little separating those sides. All those four countries, by the way, on the same side of the Rugby World Cup draw, in case you didn't notice, including Scotland. There is a gap to Scotland, like the gap between South Africa and Scotland is pretty mighty. 82.77, Scotland are down from 83.26, so it is a bit of a drop with that home loss. But there's certainly, as I said, a big old gap between the top four and then, the next few teams in Scotland, England, Australia. England are also down from 83.11 to 82.12 with that big old home loss. So weekends to kind of forget for the teams at 5 and 6 in the world. Australia and Argentina obviously not moving, having not been in action. But Wales, you're back up. There was a risk that you could have dropped to an all-time low 13th spot if you'd lost at the weekend, but not to be. Wales back up into 9th spot, which was a kind of a holding pattern spot on my whiteboard with it splitting 8 and 9 there. Not that it makes much difference in the real world, but on my whiteboard it's a big difference between on the left and the right hand side. So still on the right hand side, but yeah, up into the top spot of the right hand side are Wales. So up from 76.88 to 78.08 with their win over the Italians. So looking a little bit happier for Welsh rugby fans, I would imagine, which sees Japan, no fault of their own, dropping down a spot. Samoa is still there in 11th. Georgia's there in 12th. Now, interestingly, Georgia, with their run in that second division European competition, could potentially pass Samoa if they win against Portugal at the weekend. And Georgia tend to win that second division European competition. I think they've, barring one loss to Romania in like 2017, I think they've won it pretty much every year since like 2011. So Georgia tend to get the job done. But Portugal, who are on my whiteboard now, will hopefully be looking to play spoilers from their end anyway. Fiji have passed Italy, hence the Fiji jersey. Great weekend for Fijian rugby, not only going up in the world rankings, even though they didn't play, they just had the Italians drop below them, but the Fijian Drua beat the Crusaders in Fiji. Best crowd of Super Rugby I've seen in years. If you haven't seen it, go check that out on the highlights. It's been quite the week, but there you go. Fiji under Simon Raiwalui. Great start for them, but as I said, it's nothing really doing. It's just the Italians, with that home loss, have dropped from 75.83 down to 74.63. Although I think despite the world rankings, the Italians are still kind of a good news story in terms of where their development's going. Under 20 side got a win. So, yeah, the world rankings maybe don't do them any favours. Tonga and then Portugal. I got you the magnet, Portugal. I had printed it, but not made it. That's why I was confused last time. It was still on paper, not on cardboard with magnets. So there you go. Portugal, you're represented on the whiteboard, 67.92, playing Georgia for the final of that European championship competition, the second division European competition. Portugal doesn't usually make the final, I don't think. So it's showing a bit of development for Portuguese rugby. Like they beat the Spanish 27-10. A couple of weeks ago, so well done to Portugal. Your rugby's coming along well. Georgia had beaten the Romanians 31 points to 7. So possible permutations for the Six Nations this weekend. Well, Scotland France and Ireland are all at home in their games, and they're all going to be big-time favourites, and none of them can get anywhere if they win. The gap between Scotland and Italy is too much for them to take anything. The gap between France and Wales is too big for them to take anything, and the gap between Ireland and England is too big for them to take anything. So it's kind of only really if there's an upset win from the away side that we will see any change in the Rugby World Rankings. If Scotland, France and Ireland get home wins, this will pretty much just stay steady as she goes. Only Georgia maybe going above Samoa will be the likely change. But I mean, England could pass Scotland if they get a win. Wales could pass Argentina if they got a 16-point win, which would be pretty impressive. And then the Italians could go all the way up to 11th if they were to get a win. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see an away win, wouldn't it? In one of the games, just to shake things up a wee bit in the world rankings. But there you go, folks. That's where things are sitting. Portugal is now on the board. Wales are back up a wee bit, and Ireland and France extending their leads kind of at the top as number 1 and 2 in the world. Off the board, you got Uruguay, USA, Spain, Romania, and Namibia. So there's still a bunch of those Rugby World Cup countries, although not USA, who are kind of there or thereabouts as well. Did you know there's a podcast? 2 Cents Gets Distracted. Me and Tony from Distracted Sports doing a mostly weekly podcast. Talked a bit of Six Nations and a bit of Super Rugby yesterday. So, yeah, check that out. We talk rugby and sometimes other stuff as well while having a beer, having a yarn. So, yeah, check that out, folks. It's on all your major podcasting platforms. Also on this YouTube channel or Tony's YouTube channel, depending on which week it is. But there you go, folks. Let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon things are going to line up following the final week of the Six Nations? Is it pretty clear that France and Ireland are number 1 and 2, or do you think the All Blacks and South Africans might have something to say about that? You guys let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.